All right. Hello, everyone. It is 2 o'clock, so we are going to begin our program. So before we get started, we would just like to say thank you for joining us for this conservation education program with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. And just some guidelines as we get started. This is going to be a family program, PG rated. So if you have any questions or comments, please keep them appropriate and on topic. We are not going to be having the chat box enabled at this webinar. We are going to be having our Q&A box open though. I have a lovely moderator named Jessica Height that will be answering your questions throughout the presentation. If you want to save your questions until the end, that's totally fine. We'll probably have a couple minutes after we finish where I can answer any lingering questions. But keep in mind that failure to follow these guidelines will result in you being muted and possibly even kicked out of the webinar. So please be respectful and let's get started. All right, so my name is Scout Kirby and I am a wildlife educator and Americorps intern with the Nevada Department of Wildlife based out of Reno. And today we are going to be learning about Nevada's raptors. So to start us off with some background information, we have close to 30 different species of raptors in the state, and they are quite diverse. So we have quite a few raptors that vary in size, behaviors, and the habitats that they live in. So in terms of size, we have raptors that have wingspans as small as under a foot, whereas we have other raptors that can get as big as 6 or 7 foot wingspans. We also have a variety of behaviors in our raptors. So some of them are going to be nocturnal, meaning they are active at nighttime, whereas others will be diurnal, meaning they are active during the day. And then we also have raptors that live in a variety of habitats. And that is going to include our grasslands, our forests, our wetlands, and even our urban areas in Nevada. With all these differences, our raptors are going to share 4 common characteristics that are going to distinguish them from our other groups of birds in the state. So what is a raptor? Their first defining adaptation will be their diet, followed by their beak, their talons, and their eyesight. So beginning with their beak and diet, all of our raptors are going to have a downward curve to their beak, and their beaks are going to have sharp cutting edges on the sides. This is to help them with tearing apart their meals, which are going to consist of other animals. So our raptors are considered carnivores because they are only going to be eating meat. Some of our raptors are going to have a more specialized diet, meaning they are going to be eating more specific animals. So for example, our burrowing owls are going to be eating insects mostly, and so we consider them insectivores. We're also going to have some diet generalists, meaning that they are going to eat whatever animals they can catch and carry away. Most people think that our owls are the only raptors that are going to produce pellets, but actually most of our raptors are going to, including our eagles, hawks, and falcons, which in falcons this is called casting. The only raptor we have in the state that is not going to produce pellets is our turkey vulture, and that's because they have a strong enough stomach acid that it's going to break down the bones, fur, and other materials from their meals. Moving on to the talons and toes of our raptors. All of our raptors are going to have extremely sharp talons, and the size, curvature, and thickness of their talons is going to depend on the prey that they are taking down. Most of our raptors are also going to have strong toe and leg muscles that are going to accompany their sharp talons, though this is not the case in our turkey vultures. Since they are scavengers, they're eating dead animals, so they do not need strong toe and leg muscles to help catch their prey. All of our raptors are also going to have anisodactyl toe configurations. That means that they're going to have 3 toes that face forward and 1 toe that is pointing towards the back. In the case of our osprey and our owls, though, they can actually reconfigure their toes. One of their front toes can be rotated backwards so that they can have a zygodactyl configuration. This is where they have 2 toes forward and 2 toes in the back. And this is especially helpful for our osprey as they are fish-eating birds. And so fish are very slippery, and it's much easier to hold on to them and catch them if you have a zygodactyl toe configuration. The last and possibly most impressive adaptation that all of our raptors are going to have is their excellent eyesight. So depending on the species of raptor, their eyesight can be 6 to 10 times better than humans. And this is due to a number of adaptations, one being that they have stationary forward-facing eyes. So having eyes that are fixed in place is going to allow for better judgment. Meanwhile, their forward-facing eyes are going to allow for better focus. So looking at the diagram on the right, the light blue area represents the raptor's general field of vision, which extends almost completely around them. Meanwhile, the darker blue kind of greenish area in the center just in front of the bird, that's where their most accurate vision is concentrated. And that's because they are hunters, so they want their best vision to be directly in front of them. Additional adaptations that contribute to their eyesight include muscles that are adapted for rapid focus, as well as large eyes in proportion to their heads, especially compared to birds that are not predatory. As we said earlier, some of our birds are going to be nocturnal. This is mostly going to be our owls. They're going to have excellent night vision, whereas our diurnal birds are going to have really good color vision. So they actually have better color vision than we do as humans. They can distinguish more colors. So to have a better visual representation of that, looking at the diagram on the left side of the screen, humans are more likely to see the bird on the left where it looks more solid in color and there's less shades, whereas raptors are going to see the bird on the right side more than likely. They're gonna be able to see many more colors and distinguish between the different shades more easily than we will. So now that we have discussed what makes up a raptor, we can talk about the different kinds of raptors that we have in Nevada. So starting off, I'm going to talk about our eagles. These are our largest raptors in the state, and we have two different species, our bald and our golden eagles. They are going to get pretty big. Our bald eagles can get up to about 6 feet in wingspan, whereas golden eagles can get even larger. They can get upwards of 7 feet in wingspan. This large size allows our gold eagles to take down prey as big as mule deer fawns and also other larger animals. So more so, they can take down animals that are bigger compared to our other raptors due to this large size. And also because of their large size, bald eagles can make fairly large nests. So two bald eagles in St. Petersburg, Florida, hold the world record for the largest nest ever made. And it was 10 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and it weighed more than 2 tons. So fairly impressive feat. Our eagles are going to prefer different habitats in the state. So our bald eagles are going to prefer areas where there are larger bodies of water because they like to go fishing. Whereas our golden eagles are going to prefer more open and mountainous areas as these tend to have more of those smaller mammals and other mammals they like to eat. Now our hawks, there are two kinds of hawks. They are called accipiters and buteos, and both groups are represented in Nevada. So our accipiters are small, medium-sized forest-dwelling hawks, and they tend to have shorter, more rounded wings with longer rudder-like tails, and that helps them to maneuver through their forested habitats and avoid any obstacles like branches and other things. Our accipiters are generally going to prefer to eat smaller birds and smaller mammals. And we have 3 different species in the state. Starting on the left, we have the Cooper's hawk, the northern goshawk, and then the sharp-shinned hawk. And then we also have buteo hawks in Nevada. So these are going to be larger hawks. They're medium to large in size, and they're going to generally be found soaring above agricultural fields, other open areas, and even prairies. They tend to prefer to eat smaller mammals, but most of our buteo hawks are actually going to be diet generalists, so they are going to be eating whatever they can catch. We have about 7 different species of these type of hawks in Nevada, with our most common being the red-tailed hawk, which is also the most common hawk in North America. Moving on to our falcons. These birds look pretty similar to our accipiter hawks, and they're around the same size. They're small to medium-sized raptors, but they have a number of adaptations that are pretty unique due to their hunting style. So they're some of the fastest animals in the world. That is because they like to hunt by completing very high-speed dives that result in them catching an animal. And in order to do this, they have very narrow and pointed wings, especially compared to our other hawks, or to the hawks in Nevada. And so our peregrine falcon is actually considered the fastest animal in the world, as it has been recorded at diving at speeds up to 242 miles per hour. So they are very fast flyers. And in order to achieve this, they have some other adaptations. So for example, they have what are called baffles. If you look at that tiny little red circle, that is where their baffles are located. They're tiny little bones inside of their nostrils, and they act as a screen to help regulate the amount of air that the bird takes in as they're completing their high-speed dives. In addition to those baffles, they also have a tomial tooth, which is not an actual tooth. It is just a notch that's found near the end of their beak, and that helps them to sever the spinal cords and kill their prey very quickly. We have about 4 species. We have 4 species in the state. From left to right, we have the merlin, the peregrine falcon, prairie falcon, and the American kestrel. Now, our owls. This is our most diverse group with about 9 different species living in Nevada. All of our owls are going to be nocturnal except for our burrowing owl, so they are going to be diurnal. And because our owls are nocturnal, they have a number of unique adaptations that are going to be different from our diurnal owls and our diurnal raptors. And so one of those is going to be their feathered facial disc. So looking at this diagram, you can see that facial disc groove. These feathers act to funnel noises towards their ears, which allow them to hear a lot better. They're also going to have asymmetrical ears. So if you look at the diagram, the right ear is lower than the left ear on the barn owl. And that's to help them to triangulate and locate their prey much more easily. Our owls are also going to have really special feathers that have tiny spaces in between them that allow for the muffling of sound, so that when they are flying or when they are trying to land, they're actually completely silent and they won't scare away any prey that maybe they're going after. And then it's a very common myth that people believe owls can turn their necks 360 degrees, but this is actually false. They can turn their necks up to 270 degrees, which is fairly impressive, especially considering other raptors can only go up to about 180 degrees, and that is still twice the amount that humans are able to do. All right, so our last 3 raptors that we will be talking about are the only ones in their families that are living in Nevada, so they're going to be included on one slide so they don't feel left out. So I'm going to start off with our osprey. These are about the same size of our bald eagles. They can get up to about 5 to 6 feet in wingspan, and they look very similar in their coloration. They also prefer similar habitats to our bald eagles. So they are going to want to live near water. That can be freshwater or saltwater though. But they do prefer water that is surrounded by forests. Because they can be living near oceans, they're also referred to as sea hawks. And since they're living near water, they are going to be specializing in eating fish. We call this a piscivorous diet, and actually 99% of the osprey's diet is going to be fish. One of the ways that they are able to be such great hunters in catching fish are their zygodactyl toes. So since they are able to rotate that outer digit, that's going to help them a lot with catching their fish. In addition, they also have these tiny little spines that grow on the bottom of their toes and their feet, and those are called spicules. Those also allow them to get a better grip on the fish that they're trying to catch and carry. The next bird is a northern harrier. It's the only species of harrier that we have in Nevada. This is a hawk, although it looks both hawk and owl-like in appearance. It's about medium sized, and it's going to have longer legs and a longer tail than most other hawks. So the reason why it's going to look owl-like in addition to hawk-like is it actually has a feathered facial disc similar to our owls. It is not going to have asymmetrical ears though. So they do rely on hearing in order to hunt, which is evident by that facial disc, but they are not as good at using their hearing as owls. They don't have the same type of adaptations. So usually when northern harriers are spotted, they're seen flying pretty low. They're not going to soar up in the sky like some of our other hawks. They're going to fly pretty low just over the vegetation in whatever field or prairie they're looking at. And generally they're going to prefer field or prairies that are near wetland areas or marshes. And so previously they were actually called marsh hawks. And some people still call them that. They also have another nickname called the hen harrier. So now the last bird we are going to talk about is my favorite, the turkey vulture. These are the most common vultures in North America and the only species of vulture found in Nevada. They can get up to a 6-foot wingspan, so they're a pretty big bird. And they are going to be diet specialists. So we said earlier that they are going to be scavengers. So they are going to be eating carrion and other dead animals. So most of the time when people see our turkey vultures, they're up way high in the sky soaring. Most of the time when they're doing this, they're riding on thermals or air currents up there, and that allows them to soar for extended periods of time without having to flap their wings and expend more energy. And generally, when they're up there soaring in the sky, they're using not only their excellent vision to locate dead animals to eat, but they're also using the largest olfactory system in all of birds, meaning that they have the best sense of smell out of all birds, which is super impressive because actually a lot of birds can't smell at all. So most of the time when turkey vultures are looking for food, they're going to be seeking out animals that have been dead between 12 and 24 hours. That is their ideal meal. And they're able to eat rotten meat for a number of reasons. They have quite a few adaptations to deal with this. One of their more striking adaptations is their featherless head. So by having a naked head and face, it prevents them from getting sick from anything that might be in the meat they're eating, and it also keeps their faces clean from any rotten meat or anything gross. They're also, as we said earlier, going to have extremely acidic stomachs. And so we said they do not produce pellets because their acid can digest the bone and fur and other materials from their prey. In addition to those things, they can also, their stomach acid is also going to kill off things like parasites, bacteria, and even infectious diseases like anthrax, which develops in rotting meat. So to recap, we have approximately 30 species of raptors in Nevada, and this includes eagles, hawks, falcons, owls, harrier, turkey vulture, and the osprey. Our raptors are going to vary in size, their behaviors, and the habitats that they live in, but they are going to share those 4 defining characteristics, that being their sharp downward curved beak, their excellent eyesight, their sharp talons, and their carnivorous diet. So now we're going to talk about why raptors are important. So in terms of their role they play in their ecosystems, raptors are extremely important animals. The main reason for this is their diet. So being carnivores, a lot of our raptors are going to be top predators in their ecosystems. And when they're top predators in their ecosystems, this means that they're going to play a key role in controlling the populations of prey species. So a lot of the animals that our raptors are going to eat are going to be things like mice, voles, squirrels, rabbits, even things like snakes and lizards, locusts, and grasshoppers. So they're going to be controlling these prey populations and helping to maintain a balance within their ecosystems. But also a lot of these animals that they're eating are considered pests by humans. So having raptors present in your area is a huge advantage in controlling pest populations and therefore the damage that they're going to cause. In addition, we said that some of our birds are going to be scavengers. So our turkey vulture is our species that is going to specialize in scavenging, but all of our raptors will engage in scavenging if they have the opportunity. And as we said, scavengers, they're removing a lot of really gross things from the environment. So when they're eating these dead animals, they're removing harmful bacteria, parasites, and even possibly diseases that might have been spread throughout their environment had they not been there to consume it. And then lastly, and possibly most important, our raptors are considered indicator species. This means that changes in their populations may indicate changes that are going on in their ecosystems, especially negative changes. So for example, in the 1970s, people realized that we were losing a lot of our raptors, especially our bald eagles and our peregrine falcons. And when we realized this, when they went in and investigated, they found that a lot of the prey they were eating had high levels of DDT, which is a pesticide. So once they figured that out, they were able to solve that issue and restore ecosystem balance and restore a lot of our raptor populations. So overall, raptors are an extremely diverse and important group of birds in Nevada. And before we end this presentation and answer any lingering questions, we would just like to thank you all for attending this program and supporting the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and would also like to remind you to please stay home for Nevada at this time. So now we are going to, I believe.
All right, thank you everybody. Scout, do you have a few moments for some questions?
Absolutely, I think we've got a couple minutes for that for sure.
Kim wanted to confirm that there were 30 different species in the state.
Yeah, approximately 30. So sometimes we have raptors that are found within the state, but they don't live here at all. So we get recordings of different species, but in general, we have about 30 species that are going to live in the state at some point during the year.
Perfect. And then I've gotten to almost all of the other questions, but we'll give it a few moments if anybody has any other questions. I responded to Amy, but I'll check with you, Scout. They were curious if vultures have ever been hunted for their strong stomach acid. As far as I know, they have not been, and they are currently protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. But do you know if they were ever hunted previously?
As far as I know, they were not. I know in a lot of cultures, actually, they're considered bad omens and like signs of bad luck. So I highly doubt that people would do that, though I wouldn't be surprised still.
Okay, and then what is the biggest and the smallest raptor species in Nevada?
All right, so the largest is going to be our golden eagle. They can get up, like I said, to about 7 feet in wingspan. They can also get a little bit more than that sometimes. And then I believe our smallest raptor is our flammulated owl. And that raptor can get up to about 7 inches in wingspan, I believe.
So cute. Everyone should look up a flammulated owl because they're adorable.
Yes.
And then do raptors migrate?
Yes, we have a number of raptors that migrate. So for example, our turkey vultures do, a lot of our hawks do, and even sometimes our raptors might not maybe move south in terms of migration. Sometimes they just move lower in elevation. So especially since we're a mountainous state, a lot of times we see some of our raptors like our golden eagles coming down in elevation at different times during the year too.
And then can all of these raptors be found in southern Nevada?
I know for sure some of our northern species like the northern goshawk will not be found in southern Nevada. What other ones? There's probably also a few more, but definitely our more common species like our bald eagles, our turkey vultures, the red-tailed hawk, those are all going to be found throughout the state and in all different kinds of habitats.
All right, and then how does the peregrine falcon fly so fast?
So kind of goes along with what we were saying earlier. So they have wings that are adapted to be very aerodynamic and allow them to fly at such high speeds. And then one of the ways that they achieve high speeds are they like to fly up high and find a perch that's way, way up. Usually it's on a cliff somewhere. And how they achieve that high speed is they're going to dive down and use the speed they can gain from not only being so high up, but also using the air currents that are flowing against the cliff. And that can propel them forward even faster so they can get up to those incredibly high speeds of like 200 miles per hour.
Awesome. And then do raptors ever prey on other raptors?
Yes, they do. So especially some of our larger hawks will sometimes go after the smaller ones. So like our American kestrel, that's one of our smaller falcons. And then not even necessarily other raptors, but other birds of prey they may go after, and they can also go after just smaller birds like songbirds too.
And then what resources are good for distinguishing various types of hawks?
So there are a number of different resources. I would recommend usually the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has a lot of resources, as well as the Audubon Society. There's also websites like Hawkwatch International. They have a number of resources for learning how to identify raptors. And then I believe possibly in the future, we might be doing some webinars on identifying different groups of birds as well.
Yes, we do. So anyone that is still tuning in, we are hosting multiple webinars. We'll be doing webinars at least a couple a week for the next couple of weeks. And we do have one coming up on backyard bird identification and various other types of identification. So there are going to be all kinds of fun things to learn about. We've been flooded with questions, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get to all of them, but where are burrowing owls found in Nevada?
So burrowing owls can be somewhat in the center of the state. They can also, I believe, get a little bit more towards the south. But I've heard people as far north as around Reno saying that they have encountered burrowing owls. So they can be found in a couple different areas throughout the state.
Yes, from birding and photography groups that I'm a part of, I see a lot of pictures coming out of like Battle Mountain area. There's quite a few over there. And then we just have a whole bunch of thank yous and everybody saying that they have learned a whole awful lot. So thank you so much, Scout. That was a fantastic presentation. There are a few questions I haven't gotten to, so I will respond to you if you haven't gotten your answer yet. Just hang on for a few more moments.
Thank you all for attending and listening to me. I can talk about these birds all day.
All right, Scout, I think I've gotten to all of the questions. We have so many people thanking you for your time, so I think we are ready to go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much for attending, and I hope you get to see some of our future webinars. They should be pretty interesting as well.